In order to explore the idea of complements, we first need to understand what it means for two things to be disjoint. Now, in general, two events are disjoint if they share no possible outcomes. So, for instance, I would say being a nursing major and being not a nursing major are two disjoint events. They're disjoint because if you're over here, that means you are not over here. You are one or the other. So this is disjoint. It means the two don't occur at the same time. Now, the thing with two disjoint things is they don't necessarily make up all the possible options. For instance, being 10 and being 11 years old are two events that are actually disjoint. That is, you can't be 10 and be 11 at the same time. But it's not like you're 10 or 11. There are other options out there as well. So here I have being 10, being 11, or other. Three different things that are disjoint. I want to emphasize once again that just because two things are disjoint, like being 11 and being 10, doesn't mean they make up all possible options. Now, there are going to be the case where we have two things that are disjoint and they do make up all the possible options. This is called complements. And in general, the complement of A is made up of all events that remain if A is removed. So, for instance, if I say you're a cat person or not a cat person, it is one or the other. That is, all the people we have either fit into this category or this category right here. These two are what we call complements. If I call this A, this is the complement of A. Now we have notation for this as well. If I call that A and this is the complement of A, I can represent that by putting little a with a C on the top of it. So let's go ahead and try a couple different examples. Okay, so if I say someone goes to Loyola, I want you to think about what the complement of that would be. That is, if this is A complement would be does not go to Loyola. That is, when we're talking about complements, we're really just talking about this whole idea of having an opposite. Now, these examples are pretty straightforward, so let's make it a little bit more complicated here. In the previous videos, we talked about having a heads versus a tails. So, if I say there are no heads when I flip a coin 2 times, the complement of this would be, okay, you could have 1 head, you could have 2, you could have 3. So the complement of no heads would be at least 1 heads. So once again, no heads would be having 0 heads. But I could also have 1, 2, 3, 4, and for that reason, the complement of having no heads is at least 1 head. To really see this, let's go ahead and list that sample space again. The sample space for flipping a coin 2 times was heads, 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 tails, tails, heads, and tails, tails. Now, if I'm looking at the idea of having no heads here, that includes any of these events that don't have any heads in them, which would be just this one right here, tails, tails. The complement of that would be everything else. So the complement would be all of these. And once again, complement is just everything that's left after I remove that thing. So if the complement of no heads includes all of these 3, notice it includes heads, 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 tails, tails, heads. And what these ones have in common is that they have at least 1 heads. So in summary here, we talked about the fact that 2 things are disjoint if they have no overlap. Cat person, not cat person. Being 11 years old, being 10 years old. Those are disjoint. The complement is more specific. Not only are complements opposites, but they have to incorporate all the possible different options. That is, with complements, you either fit into one or the other. There's no in between with it. So disjoint, no overlap. Complements, no overlap, and they take up all possible options.